I think we can all relate to being in the situation where we have set a really big goal. We're super excited about it. We spend the first week, maybe two, really, really inspired. And then we just kind of start to fizzle out. And a lot of the reason for that is because we don't really know what to do every single day in order to achieve that goal. It starts to feel too big, too cumbersome. So we either just kind of give up on it or we just kind of keep pushing it off, thinking we'll get to it sometime. This realization and this cycle is one of the things that really drove me to dive into how do you actually achieve goals? And I found over the years a few key things that have really helped me to lock in and get things accomplished. The first shift that I made was taking my yearly goals and breaking them into quarterly goals. So instead of planning for the entire year of 2026, I only planned for 3 months at a time. So Q1 was January through March, then April through June, and now we're in Q3, which is July through September. This has helped me so much because 90 days is really enough time for you to create meaningful transformation and big achievements, but it's short enough to keep you focused and have that urgency behind it. And I know I've talked about that in other videos. Whereas when we have a full year to achieve something, we might continue to kind of like kick the ball down the road a little bit and feeling like there's plenty of time to accomplish it. It doesn't feel urgent. So that's one of the biggest things that I have shifted into. The second thing that I started doing in order to actually achieve my goals is exactly what we're covering in this video today. I'm breaking down the 4-level system that I use to take any goal and translate it into the daily actions that you need to do in order to accomplish that goal. You can do this any way you want, whether it's a piece of paper, a Google Doc, and I'm also going to show you the Notion system that I use as an example at the end of this video. So let's dive in. Level 1 is your goal. This is what you want to accomplish in the next 90 days, or if you want to do yearly planning or monthly planning, it's up to you. But this is where we are setting out our guiding star, what we are aiming towards. For example, some of the goals that I have for Q3 are hitting 10K in revenue in my business, reaching 10,000 subscribers here on YouTube, reaching 50,000 followers on Instagram, making a severe dent in my debt, and then with my other company, Heirloom, launching our new membership with 300 agents enrolled, which is a big, hairy, scary goal. And I think I've mentioned this in other videos before that my theme for Q3 is audacity. I just wanted to go really, really big, really push myself and just kind of see what I'm made of and what my potential is, because I feel like even though I have been doing a lot over the past couple of months, I feel like I've still been holding myself back and procrastinating and self-sabotaging and all of these things that I feel like are really a detriment to my potential. So I'm just going all in this quarter. All right, so those are a few examples of my goals. Other goals that you could have might be to run a 10K or to lose 10 pounds or to start a side hustle. Whatever it is, make sure that you write that out at the top of your page or at the top of your document. Now, a big goal is great, but then how do we actually make that happen? We need to break it down into action items and tasks that we can actually do. Level 2 is your projects or milestones. These are going to be things that contain multiple steps that you need to accomplish in one. I often find that this is where a lot of people kind of get tripped up or start to get overwhelmed because they think that projects are actually tasks. So, for example, with my goal of making a dent in my debt and getting out of debt, if I just put my task as get out of debt, that is so big and so overwhelming, and it's not something that I can sit down and do in 15, 20 minutes. So every time I sit down to try to get out of debt, I'm going to feel overwhelmed and stressed and then probably not do much with it. Instead, we need to think of bigger categories and bigger groupings. So for example, with my debt payoff, one of my projects is to go through my last 6 months of statements so that I can see exactly how I'm spending my money, how much I'm spending in certain areas, and where I can start to redirect some of my funds. Another project is to call my credit card companies, see if I can lower my interest rate, see if I can maybe have some kind of deal where I can lower the amount that I owe. For my goal of making 10K in business, I can't just put make 10K as a task, although I wish I could very easily snap my fingers and make that much. I need to break that down. So I have digital products that I'm creating. So Notion templates are one of my projects. Content creation to promote those products is another project. Partnering with brands to make affiliate income is another project. So each of those projects has multiple steps that are included in it. A great example of this, which I'm going to cover at the end of this video, is my Notion template that I created for my 90-day sprint. I can't just say, create a Notion template to sell, because that contains a lot of tasks within it. And if I tried to sit down and accomplish that in one sitting, that would be super overwhelming, and I wouldn't actually know what to focus on, where to start, and how to make sure that I know that project is done. Your milestones for something like losing 10 pounds might look like, ensuring that you have your weekly training program outlined, and you have your meals outlined for each week, and you're doing your monthly check-ins with your measurements and your weight loss, for example. Level 3 is tasks. These are singular action items. You can sit down, you can do it, and you can finish it in one step. If your tasks are going to take you longer than, say, an hour to 90 minutes, you really need to break it down even further. For example, I had a task that said create landing page. That was going to take me longer than an hour to do, so I broke that down even further into write the sales page copy, and then design the landing page, and then another task to test it once it was completed. And level 4 is your daily and weekly habits. These are the non-negotiable behaviors that fuel that execution behind the scenes. Let's take an easy example of my reaching 50,000 followers on Instagram. One of my projects is to create a content calendar each month. My task is to create my content each week. And then my daily habit is to post on my Instagram. So I'm making sure that I'm posting on my feed and posting in my story every single day. So I hope that you can see how we have moved from the big goal down to the projects and milestones, down to the tasks, and then down to the daily and weekly habits, and how they all funnel up to help you achieve that big goal. And just a couple of best practices and tips. If you are going to be running a quarterly sprint like I am, I highly recommend that you choose between 1 and 3 goals to focus on. Again, 3 months is quite a bit of time, but it's not a ton of time, so you should not be setting like 5-10 goals for yourself to achieve, especially if you've never done a quarterly sprint before. If you are going to be setting yearly goals and you decide to set maybe a few more goals because you have more time, you want to make sure that you're kind of figuring out when you want to focus on each goal and how you're going to focus on all of them throughout the year. Basically, the premise of this is that we want to work backwards from where we want to be to where we are now so that we can fill in the gap. Another key thing that I want to mention, and I know I've done a video on this before, but I will be doing an updated weekly review and planning session video soon. Every single week, I highly encourage you to sit down, whether it's for 10, 15 minutes, whatever you can spare, on a Sunday evening or on a Friday afternoon if you don't want to do it on the weekend. You can even do it on a Monday morning. And make sure that you're looking at your goal action plan. When I do my weekly review to see where I'm at in terms of my goals, I first look at my habits, where am I at on that? What was my completion rate for the week? Then I look at my tasks. What have I accomplished? What have I not accomplished? What is maybe no longer necessary? What can I move? What can I delegate? And I make sure that I clean up my task database that way. Then I go into my projects and I see, okay, based on the completion of my habits and the completion of my tasks, where do my projects stand? Am I still on track to get these accomplished in the next 90 days? And then I go up to my goal level so that I can see where am I at in terms of the status of achieving those goals, the completion rate. And I also like to just make sure it's still feeling good, it's still feeling aligned, it's still feeling relevant for me. Don't be afraid to, if a goal just feels like it's not working for you, maybe you set a goal thinking you were really, really excited about it, but then you kind of realize, I think I only wanted this because other people are doing it or because somebody told me I should want to do this. But as you're actively going through the actions and behaviors, you're like, not really. Don't be afraid to let go of that goal, okay? We don't want to waste our time chasing something that we don't actually care about and that we don't actually want in our life. Life is too short and time is precious. So don't be afraid to do that. And that's a great way to, during your weekly review, look into that and gauge where you're at. All right, so now I'm going to show you exactly how I do this in my Notion template. And again, you don't need to do this in Notion. You can do this on a piece of paper. You can do this in a Google Doc. But I am going to show you how I do this in my Notion template, which I do have for sale. And for the first week of August, I am doing a flash sale. And if you're interested in that, it will be in the description below. But let's dive in. I'm going to show you exactly how I take everything from the goal level all the way down to the habit level. All right, so let's dive in. This is an example of my Notion template, the 90-day sprint system. It's based on the exact thing that I do within my own Notion. If you guys are interested in a deeper dive on how this template works, please let me know in the comments below. I'd be happy to do that. The first one we're gonna do is setting a goal of 10K in revenue. All right, so we set our big goal. The next thing that we're gonna do is here you can map out your action plan. So we're gonna start with our projects. So the first project that I need to accomplish in order to hit this goal of $10,000 is to create my digital product. The second project I'm going to associate with this is to do a 2-week sales campaign. So then you also want to make sure that you are setting due dates for all of these things. I didn't mention that before, but making sure that you're setting due dates for your tasks and your projects, because obviously you need to make sure that things are happening in order. So I need to obviously make sure that I create this digital product by X date. I'm going to say the end of July, even though that's today, so that I can launch my 2-week sales campaign, because I can't do that without my product being done. All right, so once we have our goal set and our project set, our milestones, we're then going to break down those projects into tasks. So we're going to come down here, and for creating the digital product, I know this is going to be a Notion template. So first we need to outline the template. Then we're going to write the copy, build the template, and then we're also going to test the template. Right, so we have that done. We're going to go back and go into our sales campaign now. And we're going to do the same thing for this project. We're going to break this down into tasks. So first I need to write the sales page copy. Then I need to design the sales page, write the sales emails, test the sales page. So you can see how I am breaking this down into very specific, singular action items that I can sit down and do at one time. I can sit down and write the sales page copy in one sitting. I can sit down and write the sales emails in one sitting. If I tried to do this entire thing at once, I would be doing it for the entire day. So we want to make sure that we're breaking it down into very small actionable steps so that we're not sitting at our desk going, where do I start first? Before our habits with the sales, it might be, a little bit different. Sometimes you might have habits that you only need to do a few times a week, and that's totally fine. Sometimes it might be every single day. But for a habit for sales, I'm going to make sure that I post to social every single day, because if people are not seeing me, if they're not seeing my content, then they're not going to even know that I exist or that my products exist. So I want to make sure that I'm doing that. Now let's do another example for fitness. Let's say I want to run a half marathon. I also forgot to mention this before too, but when you are setting a goal, you want to make sure that you're outlining why the goal is important to you. Why do you even want to achieve this? Because like I mentioned, sometimes we think we want to achieve a goal because we see other people doing it, or people are telling us that we should do it, and we don't have a deep connection to it, and then we eventually kind of fizzle out and we don't want to do it anymore. So making sure that you have a strong why will kind of help keep you from wasting your time on things that don't actually matter to you. Mapping this out, again, you can list it here and then go in and build it out here. If you're using this template, if you're just using a notebook or a Google Doc, then you can certainly just answer these things here. My big projects is going to be my training program. Then another project would be finding my race. And it's totally fine if you only have like 1 or 2 projects. Some goals that I've have had like 5 or 6 projects. It just completely depends on what it is. And then again, we're going to break this down even further. First, I want to find a race. Sign up for a race. For my training program, I need to find a program, then schedule workouts. So decide, when are you going to actually do these runs? When I was doing my half marathon training, I was running 4 times a week. Nutrition plan, making sure that you're eating enough to fuel those workouts, and then your recovery plan. So those are all rolling up to that goal. And then for your habits, obviously, your habit for your half marathon would be like eating 3 balanced meals, sleeping 8 hours, like daily stretching. I know I was quite sore when I was doing my half marathon training because that was a lot of running for me when I had never really run before. Then you have everything in one place and you're able to make sure that you're going back to it, like I mentioned, every single week to review how you're doing with your goals, how you're doing with your habits, how you're doing with each project and all of your tasks so that you can see the progress that you're making and maybe where you are falling a little bit short and you need to kind of make some adjustments. So like I mentioned, if you are interested in this 90-day sprint system, the link is below in the description, but you don't need to use this. You can definitely do it on paper or do it in a Google Doc, whatever you feel comfortable with. All right, I hope that that example was helpful for you, and I hope that it gave you some clarity as to how to actually do this in your own life with your own goals. If you find that you are feeling stuck with how to break down your goal, please feel free to comment below and leave it in a comment, or if you want to DM me on Instagram, I would love to help you brainstorm how you can break this down further if you need help with that. And I just want to remind you, because I know I've had a few people question this. Yes, we are already at the end of July. We have 2 months left in Q3, but that's still 2 whole months that you can accomplish your goals. So you can either start your 90 days today if you want to go all the way through the 90, or if you want to just follow the calendar quarters, then you can just start now and do a 60-day sprint to see what you can accomplish, and then start another 90-day sprint in Q4. It's totally up to you. There are no rules here, but I highly encourage you to not wait until Q4, because 8 weeks is so much time for you to make huge waves and big jumps in progress. So do not wait until Q4. All right, now, while I love to give you guys all of my frameworks and my systems and the things that have helped me, I want to make sure that you're not just listening and walking away and forgetting everything. So I want you to comment below one big takeaway that you got from today's video and how you're going to implement it into your life today. Don't wait. Don't try to do everything all at once. Just one small thing that you can take action on right now. I hope that you enjoyed today's video. If you did, please like and subscribe. It means so much to me. Share this video with somebody that you know is struggling with their goals, and I will see you next week. Bye.